1875, Northwest Mounted Police arrived deep in Blackfoot territory at the confluence of the Bow and Elbow rivers. Their task was to build a fort as part of their mission to bring law and order to the region. Leading F Troop was Ephraim Bribois, a despised man who in the dead of winter appropriated others' buffalo robes, commandeered the camp's only iron stove, and persuaded a Métis woman to join him in his private quarters. Oh yeah, he also named the fort after himself. Fed up with his shenanigans, the soldiers sent a list of grievances to Colonel James MacLeod, who detested Bribois. He quickly denounced the fort's name, renaming it Fort Calgary, referencing a hamlet he visited on the Isle of Mull in Scotland. The fort grew, the area's population increased, and in 1894, Calgary became an incorporated city. Let's take a trip back to those early days and explore some of the buildings that still exist from that time period. Meters from Calgary's birthplace sits a log cabin built as a part of a Hudson's Bay Company trading post site. The cabin was constructed between 1876 and 1881 and is assumed to have served as a residence for an HBC Métis interpreter. The cabin is named after its last resident, rail worker William Hunt, and is the oldest Calgary building still on its original site. Over the decades, the house accumulated layers of shingles and additions. It wasn't until Fort Calgary took ownership of the cabin that a restoration project brought it back to its original look, with hundreds of pieces being replaced or restored. The cabin is now staged with period-specific artifacts, including a stove. Calgary's Edworthy Park is named after pioneer Thomas Edworthy, who came to the region in 1883. Today, Calgarians know the park for its picnic sites and trails, but the area originally housed various agricultural operations, as well as 3 sandstone quarries that provided stone for many prominent buildings in the city. Starting as a log cabin in 1883, Edworthy added a 2-story section to his home by 1896. More additions were added over the decades, making the original cabin unrecognizable. Unfortunately, I was unable to secure new footage of the home, as visitors to the property are greeted with these warnings. I reached out to the current owners, but didn't hear back from them. St. Paul's Anglican Church was built on land donated by Calgary's first European settler, John Glenn, who arrived in Fish Creek in 1873. Constructed in a Gothic Revival architectural style in 1885, the church's bell hung in a church in Thelton, England, for 200 years before being donated to St. Paul's, making it one of the oldest bells in Canada. Today, the church is still used roughly a half a dozen times a year. Here's an interesting story about the church. In 1896, a group from Pine Creek claimed to have permission from the Anglican Diocese of Calgary to move St. Paul's Church to their area. Furious over this news, S.W. Shaw nailed a letter to the front of the door stating that any attempt to do so would lead to immediate prosecution. The group from Pine Creek was already on their way to steal the church when one of the men, having ridden ahead and seen the notice, returned to inform the group of the note, after which they decided to abandon their plan. Located on the edge of the river in Inglewood, Major Stewarts House was built in 1885 on 3 lots of land. The structure includes Gothic cottage architectural elements along with elaborate trims and decorative features. In 1895, the home was purchased by Pat Burns, a well-known rancher and one of the Big Four founders of the Calgary Stampede. Starting in the 1970s, the house was owned by architect John Wilmer Lawn, who rescued it from becoming dilapidated. The historical residence is now occupied by a retired couple. Major John Stewart was a super interesting guy. Born into a prominent Ottawa family, he established himself as an ambitious military man before traveling west to form the Stewart Ranch in Pincher Creek, Alberta. Soon after, he founded the Rocky Mountain Rangers in response to the Riel Rebellion, as well as operated a luxury coach line between Calgary and Fort Macleod. He helped create coal mines in Anthracite and Canmore, and at his wedding in Ottawa, Sir John A. Macdonald proposed a toast to his bride. Unfortunately, Stewart's life was cut short, passing away in 1893 from blood poisoning caused by kidney failure. If you live in Calgary, you may have walked by the Stephen Avenue storefront without noticing that it's the only wooden building sandwiched between sandstone and brick structures. Built as a general store for U.S. merchants TC Power and Bro, the store is the only remaining survivor from the Great Fire of 1886. The building was sold to the store's longtime manager, Daniel Webster Marsh, in 1894, 4 years after he served as Calgary's 4th mayor. Over the decades, the building was home to other retail shops, including Thomas Paine Furs, a prominent Calgary business founded in 1910. The location is now home to a store that sells wolf, eagle, and skeleton shirts, along with a variety of Canadian souvenirs. These are only a few stories from Calgary's early days, with plenty more still to explore. Whether you live in Calgary, Alberta, or any other city, I encourage you to get out there and learn about its history.